Welcome back to the channel USA Coins 69, Treasure Hunters and Coin Lovers. If you've ever held a $50 in your hand and thought it was nothing more than pocket change, today's video is going to change the way you look at coins forever. We're diving into a year that most people overlook, a coin that hides in plain sight, and a piece of American history that could be sitting in your drawer or coin jar right now, the Kennedy $50 from 1972. What may seem like an ordinary 50-cent coin could actually be worth a small fortune if you know what to look for, and by the time we get to the end of this video, you might find yourself digging through every stack of coins you've ever saved. The Kennedy $50 carries more emotional and historical weight than many other modern U.S. coins. First issued in honor of President John F. Kennedy after his assassination in 1963, it replaced the Franklin $50 in 1964 and instantly became a symbol of national unity, remembrance, and pride. Even decades later, every one of these coins tells a story, but the ones struck in 1972 hold a special place in the world of collectors. Unlike some earlier years, these coins were not made with silver for general circulation, but that didn't stop them from becoming future treasures in the numismatic world. In 1972, these coins were minted in 3 locations: Philadelphia with no mint mark, Denver with the D mint mark, and San Francisco with the S for proof coins. The standard circulation pieces were made of a copper-nickel-clad composition over a pure copper core. Most people back then didn't bother to collect them because they didn't contain silver like the 1964 issues or the 40% silver coins from 1965 to 1970. That's exactly why so many ended up in regular circulation, tossed in change, traded by the roll, or stored away without care. And that's exactly why pristine examples today stand out like diamonds in a field of stone. Many of the 1972 $50 that still exist today show signs of wear: scratches across Kennedy's profile, dull luster, circulation marks, nicks around the rim, and weak strikes. That's perfectly normal for a coin that was used in daily commerce for years, passed from hands to registers to banks and back again. But not all of them met that fate. Some were tucked away in coin sets, preserved by collectors, or simply never used. That's where things get interesting because untouched, high-grade survivors from that year are much more limited than most beginners realize. Then there's the world of proof coins struck at the San Francisco Mint. These coins were made with special dies, polished planchets, and incredible attention to detail. Deep mirror backgrounds and frosted reliefs give them that cameo finish collectors love. If a proof $50 from 1972 has remained spotless, no fog, no fingerprints, no haze, no marks, its desirability goes up dramatically. Grading services like PCGS and NGC give high mint state or proof designations only to the best of the best, and those labels can turn modest coins into unbelievable finds. Let's not forget rare varieties and mint errors. These are the showstoppers collectors go crazy for. Double die obverse, missing layers, clipped planchets, off-center strikes, die cracks, over-polished details, wrong planchet errors. All of these possibilities can make a 1972 Kennedy $50 extremely valuable. Some are so subtle that the average person might never notice. Others are dramatic and obvious at first glance, and when those appear in high grades, auction results can be shocking. Even something as simple as strike quality changes everything. The depth of the hair details on Kennedy's portrait, the feathers on the eagle, the clarity of the stars, the sharpness of the lettering, these are the things serious collectors study. A coin minted in 1972 that still has full detail and booming luster is a rarity because time, movement, and handling have diminished most surviving examples. And think about how these coins were stored. Some were placed in albums with cardboard holders that caused toning or damage over time. Others were thrown in bags or jars that scratched them up. Only a small fraction stayed protected long enough to remain nearly perfect. That scarcity increases value, especially when combined with eye appeal and rarity. Collectors don't want something average, they want the finest examples known. The coin also carries cultural power. It represents a president who inspired a nation, a family legacy that shaped American politics, and a generation of history that people still feel connected to. There's emotional value on top of metal and rarity value, and that combination drives demand. As more collectors focus on modern U.S. coinage, attention has been returning to the 1970s half dollars, and values are climbing for the rarest pieces. Imagine walking into an auction with a flawless example of a 1972 Kennedy half dollar, whether it's a brilliant mint state coin from Philadelphia or Denver, or a deep cameo proof from San Francisco with not a single imperfection. If that coin happens to feature a recognized error or variety, collectors with deep pockets won't hesitate to bid hard. The coins most people dismiss as ordinary change are sometimes the ones that surprise everyone. That's the magic of coin hunting. You don't always need gold and silver to uncover fortune. Sometimes it's the coin hiding under a layer of dust in a box of keepsakes or sitting unnoticed in a collection someone inherited but never examined carefully. Whether you're just starting out or you've been collecting for years, the Kennedy half dollar from 1972 is a coin you shouldn't ignore. And now, here comes the number that truly shocks people. An exceptional example of the 1972 Kennedy half dollar, under the right conditions and in the highest level of preservation and rarity, has been valued at $1,621,000. Today, we're diving into one of the most recognizable and celebrated coins in American history, a coin that doesn't just represent currency but marks one of the most important milestones the nation has ever seen. If you've ever come across a Kennedy half dollar with the dual date 1776 to 1976 and thought it was just another coin from pocket change, you're about to find out why you might want to look again, very closely. Hidden among these bicentennial beauties are rare versions, special strikes, and high-grade survivors that can be worth serious money. By the time we get to the end, you'll know just how valuable one of these historic coins can be, especially the rarest examples that stand out from the millions minted. The Kennedy half dollar had already become a national icon long before the bicentennial version was struck. After the tragic assassination of President John F. Kennedy in 1963, the nation sought a way to honor his legacy, and the half dollar became that tribute starting in 1964. But in 1976, something truly special happened. The United States celebrated 200 years since the signing of the Declaration of Independence, and the mint marked the occasion with a special redesign of circulating coins. Instead of the usual dates, the half dollar featured the dual date 1776 to 1976 to commemorate America's bicentennial, but it wasn't just the date that made this coin stand out. For the first time, the reverse design was changed from the presidential seal to something entirely new, a powerful image of Independence Hall in Philadelphia, the birthplace of the Declaration. The front of the coin still showed the familiar profile of President Kennedy, but the reverse carried history, architecture, symbolism, and national pride all at once. The designer, Seth G. Huntington, captured the elegance and significance of Independence Hall, and millions of these special half dollars entered circulation. Now here's where it gets interesting. Most people assume all bicentennial Kennedy half dollars are the same, but that couldn't be further from the truth. There are actually different types depending on where they were minted and what they were made from. The vast majority were struck in copper-nickel clad composition, the same metal blend as regular circulating coins of the time. These came from the Philadelphia Mint with no mint mark and the Denver Mint with a D. But there were also special collector strikes made with 40% silver. Those silver bicentennial halves were produced in both uncirculated and proof versions at the San Francisco Mint with the S mint mark, and they were never meant for regular circulation, and while millions were produced overall, the real value today depends on a combination of 5 things: where it was minted, whether it contained silver, the strike quality, any special varieties or errors, and, most importantly, its condition. Time has not been kind to most of the bicentennial halves that went through cash registers, coin machines, and countless hands. Scratches, dullness, wear on Kennedy's hair, and fading details on Independence Hall knock them right into the common value range. But some coins took a different path. Some were preserved by collectors from the very beginning, sealed away in mint sets, proof sets, or private collections. Those surviving in top condition are the ones collectors chase today. Proof coins, especially deep cameo proofs from San Francisco, are among the most desirable. These coins show mirror-like fields with frosted raised design elements that almost glow under the light. When preserved in flawless condition, every line in Kennedy's hair is sharp, and every detail on Independence Hall is clear, from the clock tower to the windows. When submitted to grading companies and given top-tier ratings, those coins become incredibly valuable. And the same applies to the silver uncirculated strikes, where even the luster and toning can add to their appeal, but we can't talk about value without talking about errors and varieties. There have been bicentennial half-dollars found with off-center strikes, clashed dies, double dies, lamination errors, missing letters, planchet mistakes, and other rare oddities that instantly multiply their worth. These aren't always obvious at first glance, which is why experienced collectors carefully inspect the lettering, the date, the rim, the architecture, and every feature under magnification. Some of these unusual pieces are so rare that when they surface at auctions, collectors battle fiercely to take them home. One of the biggest secrets of coin collecting is that even modern-era coins can bring life-changing money when all the right factors align. The bicentennial half-dollar might seem common at first, but the rarest examples are anything but ordinary. Take a coin that's been sitting untouched since the 70s, stored in near-perfect condition, with either proof quality or a silver composition, maybe even a rare mint error. Suddenly you're not looking at pocket change, you're looking at a collector's dream. Think about the historical weight behind the design. The bicentennial celebration wasn't just another anniversary, it was the 200th birthday of the nation. Every coin struck that year became not just money but a commemorative artifact. And because people collected them, a lot survived, but only a tiny fraction survived in flawless, investment-grade condition. That's where the real money is, and that's why grading services like PCGS and NGC play such a critical role. A common-looking half-dollar in a drawer can become a showstopper once it's authenticated and graded at the highest level. Even the presentation matters. Coins kept in original government packaging, sealed proof sets, or protective capsules sometimes retain that untouched perfection that separates the extraordinary from the ordinary. Once those show up at major auctions, bidders don't hesitate to drive the price higher and higher, because once-in-a-lifetime examples attract once-in-a-lifetime offers. Now here's the part you've been waiting for. Among the finest and rarest examples of the 1776 to 1976 Kennedy half-dollar, with exceptional preservation and all the right characteristics, one has been valued at $356,000. Today we're heading straight into the world of American history and pocket change legends with a coin most people have held, spent, or ignored without a second thought. We're talking about the 1983 Kennedy half-dollar, a coin that seems ordinary at a glance but has surprised collectors and experts with its unexpected charm, demand, and serious money potential. If you're someone who digs through old jars, inherited coin albums, or pocket change hoping to uncover something spectacular, then stay locked in, because this coin may just blow your mind before the video ends. To truly appreciate the 1983 Kennedy half-dollar, we need to rewind the clock a little. The design itself traces back to one of the most impactful moments in American history, the tragic assassination of President John F. Kennedy in 1963. In a wave of national mourning and tribute, the Mint fast-tracked the half-dollar bearing his likeness, releasing it in 1964. Ever since then, the Kennedy half-dollar has carried both emotional weight and collector appeal. But while earlier issues like the 1964 silver versions grab a lot of attention, many people don't realize that coins from the 1980s, especially certain overlooked years, can hold serious value when the condition, strike, or variety hits the sweet spot. Now let's zoom in on 1983, a fascinating year for this coin series. Unlike some earlier decades, most circulating half-dollars of the 1980s didn't make headlines right away. They weren't silver, and they weren't widely hoarded. But that's exactly what makes the 1983 issue so interesting. These coins were struck in a copper-nickel-clad composition, and because half-dollars weren't used heavily in commerce, many ended up tossed in drawers, casino bins, bank rolls, and random circulation places. The Mint produced them primarily at the Denver and Philadelphia facilities, and although the mintage numbers weren't the lowest ever, pristine survivors are much harder to come by than you'd expect. And that is where the magic begins. Collectors today are going wild over certain 1983 Kennedy half-dollars that have managed to retain their sharp details, clean surfaces, and brilliant original luster despite decades of existence. High-grade uncirculated pieces from this year can outperform expectations dramatically, especially when graded by an official certification service and sealed in a protective holder. Add in the possibility of strike variations and mint errors, and the coin becomes even more intriguing. For those who don't know, an error coin can skyrocket in value if it shows misaligned dies, off-center strikes, double dies, missing layers, clipped planchets, or other rare abnormalities. Coin hunters and dealers pay close attention to 1983 errors because they're tougher to locate compared to some other years. Another aspect that makes this coin so appealing is the nostalgia and patriotic design that still captivates collectors. On the front you get the bold and familiar portrait of John F. Kennedy designed by Gilroy Roberts, capturing that stoic and dignified expression. On the reverse is the heraldic eagle made by Frank Gasparo, clutching arrows and an olive branch, surrounded by a circle of stars that tie perfectly into the national identity. Even though millions of people walked past Kennedy half-dollars without much thought, enthusiasts know there's a meaningful story in every detail etched into the metal. When you're evaluating a 1983 Kennedy half-dollar, eye appeal is key. That includes strong hairlines on Kennedy's portrait, well-defined lettering, crisp rim edges, clear eagle feathers, and especially a coin free of scratches, dings, or discoloration. A coin pulled straight from circulation might not impress anyone, but a bright, carefully preserved specimen could turn collector heads instantly. You should also look for coins that may have come from mint sets or rolls that escaped wear, because those are often better candidates for high grading. And of course, never forget to check for errors. Sometimes the smallest imperfection from the mint can transform a low-value coin into a prized collectible. Now imagine someone finds a 1983 Kennedy half-dollar that was never spent, protected for decades, nearly flawless to the naked eye, and then authenticated and graded at an elite mint state level. Rare examples like that are known to sell for jaw-dropping figures at auctions and private sales. Classic pocket change transforming into unexpected fortune. That's what keeps collectors scouring through boxes of coins. So if you've ever dismissed half-dollars from the 1980s as ordinary, it's time to rethink your search strategy because one lucky discovery could change everything, and here's the moment you've waited for. A superbly preserved example of the 1983 Kennedy half-dollar in the highest desirable condition, especially with an exceptional strike or a unique mint error, has reached an incredible $136,000 in value.